everyone, I am 𝓥𝓲𝓫𝓱𝓪 and welcome to 𝓥𝓲𝓫𝓱𝓪𝓷 class's 𝓥𝓲𝓫𝓱𝓪. In this video, I will explain Class 11th Political Science Chapter 7, which is Federalism. Now, if you are studying about Indian polity, it's very important to study about Indian federalism because India has a very unique federal structure. You already have a basic idea about Indian federalism as there is a chapter in class 10th as well. But in this class, you will study in deeper about federalism, about its mechanism and the issues related to it. In this chapter, we will study about what is federalism, constitutional provisions related to federalism, Indian federalism especially. Then after we will study about special provisions to those states which have certain composition, population composition and historical features. We will also study about the issues or the reasons for the conflicts among the states. Now in your book, two political maps of India are given. One is of 1947 and another is of 2017. You will find a lot of differences between them. We will see that many new states have been created, the names of the provinces have been changed, the areas or the boundaries have been altered, that is, they are either increased or decreased. So what are the reasons for that? It is because over the years we have seen many changes in the Indian federal structure, and that is what we will be studying in this chapter. Now you know what, when India got its independence in 1947, there were two types of administrative units. One was provinces, which was directly ruled by the British for administrative convenience, and second were many princely states where Indian rulers were ruling under British. So you could say there were two types of administrative units. One was provinces, which were small in number, and second was princely states, which were around 565 in number. So after independence, it was a big task to integrate them into India because they were given three options: to join either India or Pakistan or remain as independent countries. So because of the partition, we had to face a lot of problems in the federal structure as well. So in this chapter, we will be covering all those points related to federalism. And without any further ado, let's get started with the first topic, which is what is federalism? Now, so before going into the deeper mechanism of federalism, let's understand federalism with an example of USSR. Now, Union Soviet of Socialist Russia, which was a very dominant country during the 1970s, what happened? It had a lot of domination in the world before 1989, because after 1989 its power started declining. The one reason being was excessive centralization. Well, there were a lot of reasons, but one main reason was excessive centralization, which means that Russia was being dominant over the other cultures, because at that time USSR consisted of many present-day countries such as Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and there were lots of countries which were part of Russia. In 1990, it broke up into several countries. It broke up because Russia was being dominant over the cultures of different countries. So it was being dominant on the cultures, on the traditions, on the languages, and distinct features of different nations. And that's why its power started declining after 1989. Similarly, we have seen that Pakistan and Yugoslavia also had to face partitions of the country because of some ethnic reasons. You know, Yugoslavia had many ethnic tensions, and that's why it got divided into 6 countries. Similar situations happened in Canada as well. Canada was about to break up between the English-speaking people and the French-speaking people. Fortunately, it did not break up. Now, if you look at India got its independence in 1947 after a very painful partition, but still managed to remain as one India because of its unique federal structure. We have seen that even after 7 decades, we have remained as united, sovereign and independent nation. That's a little reason for that is the Indian federal structure as well. So you will see that federalism is very much important for a country, and federalism is not a fixed set of principles. It evolves in different kind of situations. So all countries are federations here, like Pakistan, Yugoslavia, Canada, and USSR, all were federations, but their federal structure was different from each other, which could not accommodate the people of those countries, and that's why they had to see very painful partitions. So you can say that federalism is very much important according to the different situation, different needs of the country, and that's why it evolves differently in different nation states. If we look at federalism, it can't be looked as a fixed set of principles, rather it can be looked as set of principles evolving in different types of national states. Now, there are some provisions about federalism which are very unique and kind of common to all the federations, which are, first of all, in federalism there are two sets of polities. One is for the national level, generally called in India as union government or the central government, and one is for the regional level, which is generally called in India as the state government. You know, in fact, in America, in USA, you will see that there is dual citizenship as well. Now, dual citizenship means that you are the citizen of the state as well as the citizen of the country. So you will have two citizenships in a single country. That is not the case in India. We have only one single citizenship in India, which is of the nations. Second point is that, or the second feature of federalism is that in each federation there is two kind of identities for people. One is the regional identity and second is the national identity. Suppose if you're living in Punjab region of India, then you're Punjabi, or Gujarati if you're living in Gujarat region, but still you are overall Indian. So in India we say, right, that we are Punjabis or Gujaratis, but still we are all Indian, and that's why we should be united as a country. Then these provisions are mentioned in a written constitution in a federalism. So in every federation there are some written principles of federalism, especially in the written constitution. So in India we also have many provisions related to federalism in the written constitution of India. Then independent judiciary is very much important in a federalism because it dissolves the disputes. It dissolves the disputes between the states and the central government or among the states. So independent judiciary is very much important because it dissolves the disputes related to the division of powers among the state and central governments. So federalism can be looked at the main basic structure about the division of power, about the relation between the center and the states. You know what, that India is a very diverse country with having 22 scheduled languages and many minor languages as well. Then we have different kind of religion, ethnic identities, and different sets of people who have different beliefs, but still we have a common country, we have a common past, that is, we were being colonized by the British, and that's why, due to having common national struggle, national freedom struggle, we are the citizens of India. So despite having so many diversity, we are still very much common to each other, and that's why the cultural trust among the people, the cultural identities among the people, the mutual cooperation, the restraints, the cooperation, mutual trust among the people is very much important for a federalism, so that there won't be a case where a unique group or a state or a political party would be dominating all the other communities of the country. So federalism has been adopted in such a way that no community would get majority and would be dominant over all other groups, and that's why it is accommodating the Indian political system. Now there are some cases about federalism in different nations. First is of West Indies. Now you have already seen about the cricket team of West Indies. You'll hear lots of news about the West Indies cricket team. But have you ever heard of a country, West Indies? Have you ever seen it on a map? That's because there is no such country as united as West Indies. You know what, that there were many separate federations under the British. They got their independence in 1958, and in 1962 they broke up into several federations because they were island nations, so they broke up into separate federations. In 1973, by the Treaty of 𝓥𝓲𝓫𝓱𝓪, they got their Supreme Court, which was common to all the federations, a common legislature, a common executive, and a common market as well, which is called as Caribbean Community. So after 1973, they are not geographically united, they are not geographically together with each other, they are separated by geographical boundaries, but politically they have some common interest and some common things such as legislatures, executive, the currencies, the Supreme Court, and the market as well. So you can say that West Indies is neither a complete united country nor can they live without each other. So they are not living without each other, still living with each other. That's a very hard concept to understand, but if you look at the deeper meaning of it, you will get to understand. Then after this next country, which is Nigeria. Now in Nigeria, what happened, there are especially two parts of Nigeria, the northern part and the southern part, which was also colonized till 1914. After 1914, what happened, that there were many ethnic tensions among the ethnic groups of Nigeria. In Nigeria, you have three major ethnic groups, which are Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa Fulani. Now what happened at the Ibadan Constitutional Conference of 1950, these three groups, which were dominant in the east, west, and north region respectively, got some control in the country. Nigeria became a federation with a common constitution, with common currency, with common Supreme Court, and everything common, legislature and executive. Now what happened, even after having the common constitution, there were still many conflicts among the ethnic groups of that country, and that's why it led to military regime. Then after, in 1979, what happened, there were still many agreements, and after those agreements, what happened, the military regime was suppressed and not a state was allowed to have any civil police. So it shows that in this region there was no mutual respect with each other, there was no cooperation among the different ethnic identities, and even today there are many problems in Nigeria relating to the ownership of oil resources in that country among these three major ethnic communities. So you can say that there are many examples in the country where federation could not accommodate the people of that country. Now let's get to the situation of India as well, which is federalism in Indian Constitution. So federalism in Indian Constitution. Now you will be very surprised to know that in Indian Constitution, nowhere the term federation or federalism has been mentioned. If you look at Article 1, Clause 1, it states India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. If you look at Article 2, it states that India, the territories and states of India shall be thereof as specified in the first schedule. So in first schedule, all the names of the union territories and the states has been mentioned. So in the Indian Constitution, nowhere the term federation has been mentioned. It describes India as the union of states, which means that there should be unity between the center and the state with separate state governments. You know what, that even before the independence, our national leaders had thought about the federalism, Indian federalism, and that's why they were having discussions about what power should be given to the state governments and the central governments, or should all the power be given to the state governments and not separate state governments should be there. So there were many kind of debates and discussions. At the same time, there was Muslim League, which was demanding for more recognition. So the Indian national leaders decided that there would be recognition given to all the states and union territories of India, but the main power would be in the central government. So there is a kind of cooperation and unity between the central government and the state governments with separate state governments, so that state would have its own recognition for the linguistic and regional diversity. It would be better if the people of the same region are governing themselves. Suppose if it is Tamil Nadu, so it would be better if the person who is governing them also can speak Tamil, so that they would be more connected to the people. The government would be more connected to the people. So that's why, to accommodate the regional diversity and the linguistic diversity, we have adopted a system in which India is kind of federal nation. You know what? India has been described as quasi-federal, that is neither too federal nor too unitary country, and that's why Indian federal structure is not a complete federal structure. We don't have a dual citizenship. We don't have many features of the American Federation, which is a complete strict federation. So that's why India is a very kind of flexible federation in which many provisions have been added according to our country's situations. So you can say that even though the concept of federalism has been adopted from other countries, but has been modified according to our country's needs. Now if we look at the division of power, then it's unique as well. You know what, that there are three lists mentioned in the Constitution of India, which are the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Now these three lists accommodate the division of powers between the central and the state governments, and if there is any dispute related to the division of power, that who should be making law on which matter, then the judiciary will be responsible for resolving that dispute. Now union list consists of matters on which only the union government can make laws. They are of national importance, or there should be policies on those matters for the whole country uniformly. So matters like atomic energy, foreign affairs, international relations of India and other countries, and you can say about the currency of India, coinage of India, are included in the union list. Then in the state list, matters like police, prison, local government, public health, liquor, animal husbandry, livestock and husbandry, they are all included in the state government because they are dependent on the region of like the geographical part of that particular state, the diversity of that particular state. So suppose agriculture. Now if you compare Punjab's agriculture and northeastern states agriculture, they are totally different, and that's why matters such like agriculture have been included in the state list. Now concurrent list involves those matters, includes those matters on which both the union and the state government can make laws. So matters such as adoption and succession, adulteration, education, and the transfer of property other than the agricultural land are included in the concurrent list. Now there is one thing you need to remember, that if there is any dispute on a matter included in concurrent list, suppose there is a policy related to education on which the state government and central government are disagreeing with each other, then the opinion of central government will prevail the other ones. So you can say that in the concurrent list, the central government has the upper hand at making opinions. Then there is a residuary power bestowed to the union government. Suppose there are new subjects coming up which have not been included in any of those lists, neither the central like union list, not the state list, and not the concurrent list, then what would happen? So the union government has the power to make laws on those subjects. So like subjects like cyber laws and recently AI, they have not been included in any of the list. So the central government alone has the power to make laws on those matters, and it is called as residuary powers. So you can say that division of power is based on three lists: state list, union list, and the concurrent list. And the extra privilege is of residuary powers to the union government, and the judiciary is the one to resolve any dispute among the states and the central government related to the division of power. So that's how the power has been divided in our country. Now the next topic here is federalism with a strong central government. So So federalism with a strong central government. Now you know what, that India is also called as federalism with a strong central government. The reason being that we have given more powers to the central government compared to state governments, and that is because the framers of the constitution wanted a strong central government to stem the disintegration, like to stem the disintegration of the country, because at that time we just had a painful partition, and that's why, not to have such kind of situation once again in the country, they wanted to have a central government. And you know what, the newly independent country has many socio-economic problems such as poverty, illiteracy, the undistribution of wealth, like unequal distribution of wealth. So to maintain those disparities, it was important to have a very strong central government, and that's why the framers of the constitution gave more powers to the central government to maintain peace and stability in the country. So if you're asked about why the central government has been given more power, then there are reasons behind it. It's not like the framers just wanted to give more powers to the central government. There are some legitimate reasons, logical reasons behind that, because in India, federal structure is such that there is coordination, there is mutual respect, mutual cooperation between the state governments and the central government. But central government has the upper hand with related to the powers. Now, what are the provisions by which we can say that the central government is more powerful? Then there are some constitutional provisions. Just take a look at the Article 3. The very existence of the state is in the hands of the parliament. The integrity is in the hands of the parliament, because parliament has been bestowed with the power to form a new state by demarcating any state or by uniting two or more states. It can even increase or decrease the boundaries of the state or even its name by the Article 3 of the Constitution. So you can say that the very existence of the state is in the hands of the parliament, which is of course a part of the central government. Then after, the parliament has very good provisions, very unique provisions with related to the emergency provisions, because during emergency there is excessive centralization in the country. The federal structure is abolished and there is a very good centralization, like excessive centralization in the country. So during emergency, state government are shut up. Then after, there are provisions related to financial resources and revenue collection as well. You know what, that all the revenue sources are in the hands of the parliament or in the central government, and the state governments are dependent on the grants given by the parliament. There is also Niti Aayog, which was earlier the Planning Commission of India, which supervises the resource income of the state governments. And it is upon the parliament whether to give loans or to give grants to the states. So there is inequality in these grants as well, basically on those states which are ruled by an opposition party. So if a state is ruled by an opposition party, then generally it is seen that the ruling party won't be giving so much grants to that particular state. It has been raised as a critique question. Then after, we also have the governor's power as well, which we'll read later as well. Now, governor has the power for the dismissal, for the proposal of dismissal of the state legislature. The governor can also reserve a bill passed by the state legislature for the assent of the President of India. So there are many provisions in the Constitution of India which show that the central government is way more powerful than the state governments. Just take a look at the executives. You know, the executive of the union is far away powerful than the state government, and it can be seen by the Article 257 Clause 1, which states that the executive power of the state shall be so exercised as not to impede or prejudice the executive power of the union, and the executive power of union shall extend to giving such discretion to giving such directions to a state as it may appear necessary to government of India for that purpose. So if the government of India sees that it is necessary to give directions for the executive power of the state, then the government of India can take actions on that as well. Then after, there are many matters in the state list, and if it is necessary that there should be union government, it should be union government for making actions, for making laws on that particular subject, then it can do that so. But it should be ratified by the Rajya Sabha. So if it is ratified by the Rajya Sabha, then that means that the parliament can make laws on the matters of the state list as well. And it is generally seen in the cases in which the state government is unable to make laws on particular subjects because of some cases like some socio-economic reasons, it could be due to political reasons, so there can be many reasons, but the parliament is empowered to do so. So you can see that there are many provisions by which it is seen that the central government of India is powerful, has been given more privileges than the state government. Then there's another thing as well. If the central government is given so much power, then there will be conflicts in India's federalism as well, India's federal structure as well. So we have seen that even after getting so much recognition, the state governments are demanding for many things, and there are many conflicted areas between the central government and the state governments. It could be state government of Bihar, it could be state government of Kerala, it could be any state government, but there have been, since the day we have been independent, since the year we have been independent, there have been many demands from many different states. So what are those demands, or especially what are those conflicts? Let us look at those one by one as well. So the first conflict is, of course, center-state relations. So center-state relations, you know what, the most important thing in a federalism is the coordination between the center and state governments, because the relation of the center and the states decides the type of federalism, the nature of that federalism, and that's why center-state relations become very important. Now, in the early 1960s, the formation or the foundation of the federalism had been laid down by the Jawaharlal Nehru. And you know what? At that time, Congress was having dominance over all the political structure of the country in each and every state except some. In every state in the center, there was a dominance of INC, which is Indian National Congress. And because of that, there were very good relations between the central government and the state government, except on the issue of the formation of the new states. So you can say at that time the center-state relations were very good. But what happened after 1960s, many regional parties started growing up, and there were many states on which now the opposition was ruling, and in the center the Congress was ruling. So what happened after that? Those parties, those regional parties, demanded for more autonomy and for greater powers of the state, and that's why there was some kind of flinching, there was some kind of tensions between the center and state relations, and the Congress too was not so much optimistic about dealing with those states which were led by opposition parties. And in 1990s, finally what happened, the growth of coalition was being seen. What happened after 1990s? Congress power declined very much, and that's why no party could gain so much majority, and that's why coalition started growing up. As you know, coalition means when two or more parties make an alliance with each other to contest in an election, so that all their votes would be added together in their coalition. At the present, like recently, India was formed as a coalition, INDIA, which is, and after we have NDA, on which the major party is BJP, which is the ruling party at present. So you can say that there are many coalitions in the country, and after 1990s their growth started rising. And that's why the relation between the center and state started fluctuating as well. Now what would happen that if there is coalition, then that means the relation would be better, because there is not a single party which is ruling. There are many parties, especially coalition is seen in the central level, and in states we see the regional parties. So that's how the central state relation has evolved over many years in India. Then after, we have the demands for greater autonomy as well. Now what has happened over the years? Many states have demanded for greater autonomy with regard to the central government. They have asked for greater powers, and autonomy here refers to many different aspects. First aspect is related to the division of powers. Parties such as DMK, Akali Dal, CPIM, and states such as Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and Punjab have always demanded for a different division of powers, where states would be assigned to more important matters and there would be less interference by the central government. Then there is another aspect, which is the second aspect of financial autonomy. You know what, that for all the resources, the income, state governments are dependent on the grants and aid by the central government, which can be used unequally by the central government as well. And that's why the state governments have always demanded that they should have their separate source of income as well. You know, Left Front in West Bengal, like Left Front, which is a very active party, you can say, for demanding autonomy for the state, has released a document in which it demanded for financial autonomy. Similarly, in Punjab too and Tamil Nadu, the documents which were asked for greater autonomy has an implicit support for the financial autonomy. Third aspect is of the administrative machinery. You know what, that over the years states have seen that there is a very much big interference by the central government in the states matters, and that's why states should be empowered to rule themselves, to govern themselves, rather than having interference from the central government. Fourth aspect is the socio-economic aspect. You know what, that the language issues, the cultural issues should be resolved by the state government themselves. So examples could be like the cultural growth of Punjab. Punjab is asking for more cultural growth. Then there is opposition to the domination of Hindi language and Hindi language speaking areas. So you could say that, and you know, in 1960s there were seen many accusations in many states over the imposition of Hindi language. So you could say that language matter, linguistic matters, and cultural matters also are very important for the autonomy. So there could be four aspects of the autonomy. First is for division of power, second is for financial autonomy, third is for the administrative purpose, and fourth is for the cultural issues. Then after, we have another thing, that is role of governor and president's rule, which has been very much controversial over the years. You know, governor is not an elected person. He is appointed, he or she is appointed by the central government, and mostly they are retired civil servants, retired from military posts, or retired from the central governments, and that's why they are like the pawns of the central government to interfere in states matter, because they are appointed by the central government, but they are having the responsibilities of the state government in the state legislature, and that shows that central government is having an indirect impact on the state legislature. So because governor is appointed by the central government, many times it has been seen that the parliament has not acted indifferently. They have they have shown biasing towards someone who is from like ruling party, or it could be from you could say from their parties. So it shows that, and you know what, there is a very controversial article in the Constitution of India, which is Article 356. Now Article 356 states for the president's rule in any state, and it can be done only in the case if the state has not been able to act or take actions in the state to govern the state in accordance with this constitution. The governor has the power to recommend a dismissal, a suspension, or even the dissolution of the state legislature. And that's why state legislatures have raised a question against the powers of the governors, because governor is having a very much greater powers. The president's rule can only be done if applied, if you could say, if like ratified by the parliament, and parliament is of course the central government. After that, president's rule can be extended till 3 years, which is a very long period of time, and many times it has been seen, like in Kerala in 1959, when the state legislature had a very clear majority, still it had to be dissolution. Its dissolution was seen because of the recommendation of the governor. Similar cases were seen in 1967 as well in many states. So we have seen that over the years it has happened, the ruling party can use this provision to shut down any state government, and it had been seen by Congress government as well. During that time, when the opposition parties started growing up in 1960s, so what would happen that Congress would use this trick to shut down the state governments of different states, as was seen in the case of Andhra Pradesh, in Punjab as well in the 1960s. So it has been seen that the role of the governor in the state legislature, because recommending the dissolution, the suspension or dismissal of the state legislature is a very big task. It can the governor can also reserve a bill passed by the state legislature for the assent of the president. So it shows his power, his powers. And the president's rule, which has been very much controversial as well. So in India's federal structure, these are some issues between the center and the state. Now the next thing here is demands for new states. So demands for new states. Now, as you know that the national movement, which was a freedom struggle against the British, had many long processes, and in that course we have seen that it was a battle for democracy as well and for the unity of the people. It also increased the demands for the regional unity, identification and cultural unity too. And that's why over the years the demands for new state has been created as well. Now what has happened due to the national movement, it was seen that the main basis for the creation of a state would be the linguistic basis and the cultural basis, and that's why demands for the linguistic states arose after the independence. Now first ever linguistic state to be created in India was Andhra Pradesh in 1952, and it was also because of death of a great leader like 𝓒𝓱𝓪𝓾𝓱𝓪𝓷, who was his name, and who had hunger strike for 50 days and died after that. And that's why Andhra Pradesh was created for the Telugu speaking people, after which many linguistic states started being created. In that we had States Reorganization Committee, which recommended the creation of which states should be given access, and that's why in 1960 we had the separation of Maharashtra and Gujarat. Earlier it was Bombay, in which Gujarat and Maharashtra both were united. So in 1960 Gujarat and Maharashtra were created. In 1966 Haryana and Punjab were created, and in recent years in 2000s we had seen that from Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand were created respectively, and the latest one was being in 2014 from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana was created. And recently, there have been some changes in the states and the union territories. So at present we have 28 states and 8 union territories. So Jammu and Kashmir, which was earlier a state, has been added in the list of union territories, and one more union territory, which was the Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, were united together. Earlier they were separate union territories, but now they are together considered as one union territory. So you could say that over the years many linguistic states have been created. One purpose is of course for the linguistic identity of the people, because if we don't create such states, there would be demands and there would be protest by the people. And second is for the administrative convenience. So big states like Uttar Pradesh, which was earlier even bigger, had been separated, had been demarcated into another state because of the administrative inconvenience. So you could say that there are many reasons for the demands of the new states, and still even today there have been demands for new states like Vidarbha in Maharashtra. You know what, that when first demand of ever for the linguistic states was created, the Indian national leaders were completely against it, because it was stemmed to the disintegration of the country. It was like people were being divided. But we have seen that even the years linguistic states have not created a problem related to the unity, integrity and sovereignty of the country. After that we have interstate conflicts. Till now we have seen the conflicts between the center and the state, but there are many grounds on which even the states are fighting with each other, and the judiciary has power to settle the legal disputes, but these disputes are not just limited to the legal matters. They are more about the sentiments of the people, and they have political implications as well, and that's why these interstate conflicts are often settled with negotiations and understanding. So there can be two types of interstate conflicts. First is border dispute. Now border dispute is about the boundaries of the states. So often what happens, that the main basis of the state creation would be of course language, but often many states have boundaries in which people speak more than one language. So the language majority can't be considered the only reason for the addition or subtraction of that region from a particular state. So some border disputes in our country is between the Maharashtra and Karnataka over the region of Belgaum. So that region has been often disputed between these two states. Then there is border dispute between Haryana and Punjab over Chandigarh. You have seen that in maths you would find that Chandigarh is the capital of both the states. That's because both states are fighting for it. Both states have a dispute over Chandigarh as their capital. In 1985, the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi also had negotiations with Punjab that Chandigarh would be given to Punjab, but that has never happened. So you can say there are many border disputes in India. Then there could be water disputes. Now till now border disputes is more about sentiments, but water disputes has many different implications. It can implicate the lives of the farmers, it can implicate the lives of economic status of that particular state. And very infamous water dispute in our country is of course Kaveri water dispute. Now Kaveri river, which is a southern Indian river, what happens, this dispute is between Tamil Nadu and Kerala. These two states are fighting for its water. The peasants from both the states have been dependent on the waters of Kaveri river for their livelihoods, for their agriculture. So both the states are fighting for it. So even if there are water dispute settling tribunals, but they are not being able to solve it, and it had reached to the Supreme Court of India as well. Then after we have Narmada river, the dispute for the Narmada river's waters. Now this dispute is between three states, namely Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. So the Narmada river flows through these three states, and these three states are fighting for its water. So you can say there can be two types of interstate conflicts. First is the border dispute, and second is the river water disputes, and they have been very much in news, very much causing conflicts between the states. So now the next topic here is special provisions. So you know what, that many states in India have been treated differently. Special provisions are being given to them, and these states are mostly in the northeastern states such as Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur, and some states which earlier had Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir is the most controversial one, even though today it is not having any special provisions, but earlier it used to have. So in your edition book it is not given that it has been erased, but you should know about it. So special provisions are given basically because of their special features. So if in the northeastern some special provisions are given, then it's because of the tribal population of that particular region, because tribal people have their distinct identity, their distinct historical features. Then we have hilly areas such as Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, which are also having some special provisions due to their geographical geographical features of the states. So you can see that even though the relation between the center and state is very much fluctuating, there have been many special provisions to different kind of states, and the most important one among them is of course Jammu and Kashmir. Now, according to the Article 370, it gave many special provisions to Jammu and Kashmir. Earlier, Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution and a flag, and no emergency provisions such as financial emergency could be applied to Jammu and Kashmir without the concurrence of the state. All the laws of the union list and the concurrent list could be applied on this state only by the concurrence of the state government. They had their own identity, their own flag, their own constitution and their own laws. So the parliament, the central government did not have that much rule, that much governance on that state. Earlier it was a state, now it is a union territory. So you could say that under Article 370, and there were some provisions in Article 35A as well. This Jammu and Kashmir had been given many special provisions. Even when it had been given special provisions, it had been given because of its population and special historical features. You know what, that during the time of independence, it had a very majority of Muslim population, and Pakistan and India had fought a war for adding this region, for adding Jammu and Kashmir in their countries. So Pakistan was very reluctant to leave Jammu and Kashmir, and that's why India and Pakistan fought the war for Jammu and Kashmir. And at that time, the king of Jammu and Kashmir acceded to India by signing the instrument of accession. So you can say that Jammu and Kashmir, because of having special features, was given special provisions. So even though it had been given many constitution provisions, but still in reality it was not that much. And finally in 2019, by the Constitutional Order 2019, which was applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, Article 370 was abolished. So at present, Jammu and Kashmir does not have any kind of special provision. It is right now a union territory, not a state. So that is about the special provision of Jammu and Kashmir. Then, of course, the last thing about this chapter is conclusion. After reading all this chapter, after studying all this chapter, what do we conclude? For sure, we can say one thing, that federalism has always evolved according to the political practices, according to the processes in that country. Federalism is like a rainbow which is having different colors, but they together in a harmonious way make a rainbow. So we can say that federalism is a very unique. In India is called as quasi-federal. There was a very big political activist whose name was K.C. Ware, and he described India as quasi-federal. So that means India is neither too federal nor too unitary country. Then we have many special provisions related to federalism, as we have seen that India is having a strong central government and not more power has been given to state governments, and that's why many fluctuations have been seen between the center and state relations. And one thing that we left was about civil servants. So if there is an IAS officer, if there is an IPS officer who is the commissioner of police, then the state government can't take any actions on them about their transfer, about their suspension from the office. Only the central government is allowed to do so, because they have been chosen by the central government. Like they are for the civil services, all India services. So they have been chosen in all India services, and they are required to do work in a particular state. So state government is not allowed to take any actions against them. So you can say that Indian federalism is kind of very unique one, because if you look at the US federalism, it is very different one. It has a very strict federalism, very inflexible, which is a rigid federalism, but Indian federalism is a flexible one. So that is all about this chapter. I have covered all the topics and subtopics, and the next chapters of this book will be covered in the further upcoming videos. So stay tuned for the upcoming videos. Thank you very much.